Welcome to today's episode of Candid Talk. Today we will be dealing with a subject that is really important, and it's the subject of the vulnerability of men as husbands, as sons, and as fathers. And today on our panel, we have Simon Bevy. Simon is the brains behind the famous Man Enough. He's an executive director at the Transform Nations, and he's married to Sophie. Together they have 3 lovely children. One is 20, the other one is 15, and the other one is 10. Next on our panel, we have Patrick Obel. Patrick is no stranger to us. He's our resident psychologist. He is a counselor working at the United States International University, and he is a father to 4 girls. One is 20 years, another one is 18 years, and 2 are 15 years. He's married to Dorcas. And my name is Julia Ombasi. I will be your host for today. Welcome to the program. Welcome to Candid Talk. This is a program in which we candidly talk about real life issues and challenge one another on how we can get better. Today we are dealing with a very important topic, and that is what men need, and really how we can support them to get what they need. As we begin, I would like to ask Simon to just tell us about something about men, to begin with. What really do you think that men need? Maybe it could be an overview, or what comes to your mind?
Well, I'm glad to be here for this candid conversation. I think it's a broad topic generally, but of course we have to begin somewhere. Yes. But as we have dealt with men over the last few years, especially the program Man Enough, what I've found to be the real needs, they are the wants and the things that, neither here nor there. But I think the deep ones, personal needs of men, number one is identity, just understanding who you are. And when you think about identity, I think fatherhood becomes a key aspect of that. Yes. But there are lots of men who are trying to do things to prove themselves because they don't have an identity. And that begins at a certain point as the kids grow up. They just want to know, who am I? And the affirmation of that is very crucial, and I know we're going to get into that. So number one is knowing who you are as a man. So you don't have to keep proving yourself to everyone and throwing your weight around so that people know who you are. Number two, I think men need one another. There are a lot of men who live in isolation.
That's true.
Yeah, a lot of men. I think for ladies, you hang out a lot, you have good friends. I see my wife calling her friends every evening and they talk for hours. I know you don't do that. But a lot of men live in isolation. We just don't have real brotherhood. Men you can be very close with, who know you well, and your boys, not just people you take a drink with or go to church with or do something else with, but people who really know you for who you are. And thirdly, and tied to that, is vulnerability. As men, we say in Swahili, you unakufa kiume. You die like a man, but you die with problems because what is killing you could have talked about it and dealt with it. So men need a safe place where they can talk about the burdens they carry. And if they find that, then of course they're going to live longer. I think one of the reasons why you people live longer than us is because we carry so much and we don't even talk about them. And during this COVID situation, there's a guy I met through the wife, because the wife said, you need to help this guy. He had lost his job through COVID, and for a month and a half, the family had no idea he had lost his job. He just didn't want to say it, because he thought, what are they going to think? They're going to be scared. But he would wake up in the morning and go to work like he used to, but he wasn't going to work. He would just go and hang out somewhere and come back in the evening. So I think a lot of men carry a lot of pressure and issues and they don't talk about them. So we need a safe place where we can talk about those issues. And we need the courage to be vulnerable. once we have a safe place. And lastly, I think as men we need significance. We just work so much for success, for the money, for the toys, for the car, for this and that. But just like everyone else, it's not just men alone, but especially men, because we're so driven by success.
Exactly.
We forget life is more than success. When you arrive at success, you realize you're still looking for something, because it's significance. Is how do you live in such a way that you feel that you lived well? How do you touch other people's lives? How do you become bigger than the money you have in the bank? How do you live in a bigger way? So I would say those are, in my opinion, the 4 main needs of men. Identity, knowing who you are, defining yourself. Number 2 is brotherhood, having friends that you can be with and you're not isolated. And number 3 is a safe place, because you can have friends and then they're not safe enough for you to talk about yourself and what you're going on with at home and what's going on. And lastly, significance.
But I'm wondering, what is it that holds it back? I know you mentioned that it could be maybe not a safe place, but it's the most normal thing for men to do is to recoil. It's not to talk about real issues, you know. Why? What do you think causes that? I don't know.
I think number 1 is a big ego that we have. We're just prideful. We don't want to look weak. So you'd rather deal with those things by yourself than let other people know. Then you feel they're going to judge you. So there's the ego. Secondly, there's a culture and the way we are socialized. We're taught big boys don't cry, don't show weakness. And of course we saw it in our dads. They never would talk about what's going on. You know, some of them never would talk about sickness. I mean, until today, it's hard for us to go to the hospital. Women, when they get a little sickness, they want to go. But the way we are socialized, going to the hospital is only when things are really bad. You know? The other day I had a slight infection and my wife was telling me, go see a doctor. I said, this is a small thing, I'll deal with it. And later I realized, this thing has been ingrained in us for a long time. So that's why many times when men go to the hospital, it's a bit late. They should have gone earlier. Because of the way we are brought up. So there's a culture into it, and there's an ego, and just the way masculinity is defined. It's meant to be tough it out. You're a strong man, you know, don't show weakness. You can deal with this. So I think those things affect it. So even when you want to feel, you want to talk about it, you wonder how is he going to see me if I'm talking about this. So to preserve your image and stroke your pride, then you just live with your things and you let them kill you eventually.
My concern is...
Add something to that, I want to say I agree totally with what Brother Baby is saying. The socialization bit, I think, plays quite a big role in why men would appear to recoil. And then maybe the other bit is just how we experience life. You know, what is being portrayed, the things that are being communicated to us, other than just how we've been brought up in our small community. But you see what is being portrayed around. Maybe somebody manifested some what we'd call weakness, and how they're being treated by the society around. Now, nobody wants to go through that, so they would rather stay away. But as a therapist, I have met men who come and they talk about their issues. And when we engage with them, they see so much benefit in having to talk to somebody about their experience. Because we are all human, and as human beings we have experiences that we go through. And when you talk it out with somebody else, you realize they have a different perspective of what it is that you're going through. And especially when they are not going to judge you. They're only listening to you for who you are and for what your experience is. Because when I'm in pain, I'm in pain. And that is exactly what I'm talking about, the pain I'm going through. So if somebody can listen to me just for who I am and what I'm saying, other than wondering, even you know, it's like I should not be in pain, you know. So those are the kind of things. So really socialization and just how the society around us has handled certain situations, I think maybe erroneously, has actually brought that issue to the many people.
So really you're saying it's like society doesn't give us permission to be vulnerable. And I'll give you an example. If my wife was found on the street, sitting somewhere crying, everyone would stop and say, "What is wrong? How can I help you?" And we found this man on the street sitting there crying. We'll take videos and put it on social media and say, "What's wrong with men these days? They need to grow up." So in a sense, we are reinforcing that.
Exactly.
Don't be weak. Don't show us your things. Deal with them.
But what Patrick was saying has really, and what you said has really then leads to what has over and over been said, that the boy child has been ignored. Because women will reach out and then get other young people to be mentored faster. What I'm wondering about, what is it that we as women and even our children can do to help the men be able to get out what is inside them? Is there any way we can help, or is there no way we can help?
Yeah, there's a lot we can do, and I'm sure Barry will add more. But you see, if number one is allowing me to be weak. If I go home and tell my wife, this is what I'm feeling, then it says, "Be strong, you're a man." You see, that is refusing to acknowledge.
You have aborted the process.
You have aborted the process. So being able to provide the atmosphere. For example, the other day my son came and told me, "Dad, you look a little low. Is something wrong?" I said, "Actually, yeah, I feel discouraged because of this and this." Don't worry, Dad, everyone gets discouraged. It's going to be okay. So he acknowledged it's okay for me to be discouraged. So I think the society just giving the permission, and our children and at home giving that permission and realizing that sometimes we are at that place and it's okay. It's not wrong. And then the other thing is especially mothers helping sons understand how to handle emotions. Generally, fathers don't do a good job in helping children understand their emotions because they're also trying to understand theirs. But mothers, if they began to teach the boy when he's 5 to 8, because that's when psychologically there's like a new emotional birth, they begin to understand emotions deeply. And you tell them, okay, now you're feeling sad, and that's okay. People feel sad, and this is what you do when you're sad. So you see, when you start that when we are young as boys, and when we are grown up, we're able to, we have emotional intelligence. We understand what we are feeling.
And it's okay to feel
and
that.
We know it's okay.
Yes.
And you can call it a name. I remember when I got married, and sometimes I'll come home and just tell my wife, I'm feeling bad. And she said, "There's nothing like feeling bad." What exactly are you feeling? So I'll explain a long story, and she'll just say, "You're sad." I say, "Really?" "Yeah, so when you're sad, this is what you feel, and it's okay." And I'm saying, nobody ever told me that. So you see, mothers can prepare, especially their boys, to understand these emotions, to name them, and to know it's okay, and to give them permission to talk about them. I was now given permission to say when I was young that I'm angry. I'm angry with you, Mom. No, I would be beaten for that. But my kids sometimes, because I've given them that permission, they come and say, "Dad, I'm angry that you promised me this yesterday and you didn't do it." I say, "Yeah, I understand, and it's okay to be angry. You're frustrated, and that we can deal with. When you're angry, I can say sorry, and I say sorry. But when we don't allow them from when they're younger to experience that, then when they're older, they'll not be able to talk about it."
Now, you see, when I hear Simon talking, and when you think of emotions, emotions are very spontaneous. And these are things that actually naturally emerge from us. Nobody's trained to be emotional. And in fact, I should not even say emotional, but nobody's trained to express an emotion, because people have issues and say, "Oh, somebody's emotional, somebody's not." That I think is a misnomer of its own. So people are not trained to express emotions. It is a spontaneous reaction that actually comes from us when we go through different experiences. And so what I think, as Simon is saying, that needs to happen to us is to acknowledge when we have a particular emotion, because it is for that moment. And once that moment is done, you move on. These are very temporary experiences that you have at different phases, at different moments in life. When you are happy, you don't remain happy throughout.
I know.
You'll get sad. And when you are sad, you're not sad throughout. You'll get happy. So these are changing emotions. And so whenever they come, they should be acknowledged at that moment, because then it serves a purpose of genuineness or authenticity. Because when you are sad and you don't express sadness, you're not genuine. So the issue is allowing people to be genuine and authentic. So if you can allow the men to be authentic, allow them to be genuine, and acknowledge where they are at, that will be very supportive. Because when I am sad, you should not be upset with me that I'm sad. If there is anything you want to find out why I'm sad, then I could explain why I'm sad. If I'm not able to explain because possibly I don't even understand what it is, then don't think that I'm denying to do anything or say something. I may also not understand exactly what it is. Maybe with time I'll get to realize, it was because of this that didn't happen. That is why I was sad that day. But possibly at that particular moment, I may not be able to pick out what is causing me to express a particular emotion. But when I'm able to explain it, then that is it. Accept it. Because when you feel that somebody should not be expressing a certain emotion, for example, when a young child succeeds to accomplish something and they're very thrilled, excited, what makes you think an older person, when they've also achieved something, they can't be excited? Yeah, but somebody will dampen that and say, you mean just that is why you're getting very excited. It's like you're disqualifying my feeling excited because of what it is that I've gone through. So that for me, I think, is the issue. Is just to acknowledge and to allow people to be authentic and to be genuine, because that is really being who we are.
I was going to ask something, but I will go back to Simon first. I'm going to ask something about when we do not express those emotions, when the kids do not express, do they affect them in life at all?
That's true.
Does it? But I'm coming back to you. But you said something about when a child is excited, and it reminded me of your book. You were talking about the Daddy's Destiny, and you're talking about this child who gets a C, and then the father says, "A C? Why didn't you get something better?" And he gets a B, and he says, and then eventually the child works so hard and gets an A, and the father says, "How many A's were there?" Was it something like that?
Yeah, you're the only person who got an A. Why are you excited about it? The other kids also got A's. So I think sometimes we have those kind of fathers, because I think fatherhood is very crucial in terms of what men need. Because fathers, in a sense, affirm our identity. They give us identity. I'm called Simon Bevy, and Bevy is my dad, and that's an identity in a big way, because dads affirm us. And psychologists say that especially between 8, 9 to 11, 12, the voice and relationship with a father is very crucial in understanding who you are. Because you've been very close to mom, and now you get to a point where you need to separate yourself to become your own person or individual. So that process is going on, and you need another person as well to affirm you. Initially, when the dad is there, it becomes that person. So talking about fatherhood and what we go through, and I think that's part of what I wrote here. Dad is destiny, the difference a father makes. The dads play a very crucial role in shaping us into who we become, both girls and boys. But let me talk a bit about the men, because when those emotions are suppressed, that you're not allowed to come out with those emotions and feelings and all of that, then they're going to come out sideways in some way, because they get bottled up. It's like pressure that is not allowed to escape. It's going to escape in other ways. You can get violent and you realize the violence you're doing here is because of what happened many years ago. You've never dealt with that. Because Obel will tell you emotions are like the dashboard. They are signs of what's going on in the engine and what's going on. That's why you need to think, why did you feel sad? Because there's something happening. But when you don't express it, then eventually the engine might burst. Let me give you an example. I talk about father wounds a lot, the way our fathers have wounded us. And so recently I was in a men's meeting, and these are older men in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And I talked about how we get wounded by our dads, whether they were absent or they were abusive or they were just perfectionist and just having too high standards, different, or they were just passive. They were there but not really there, in different ways. And I talked about it and I gave my own story. And it was amazing now at the end of it. A lot of these men were weeping. These are men in their 50s and 60s. And then I did something just to try and help them deal with that, because that, for sure, some of them have carried this for years. So I told them, okay, I'm going to stand here. I know some of you might have wanted a father hug and you never got it. I'm going to stand here and stand in the place of your dad and give you a hug. If you just want a hug and affirmation. Do you know 1 hour later I was still hugging grown-up men?
Wow.
And I remember one of them was 65 years old. He came and held me. He had a huge frame. He almost crushed me. He just hugged me. I couldn't breathe. But he refused to let go for like 10 minutes. And he was weeping like a baby. He wet my entire shirt with his tears. And at the end of it, he looked at me and he said, when I was about 8, 9 years old, my father walked out on us. And I remember walking to him and holding him and said, Dad, don't leave us. And he just kicked me and he went. He said, I've never seen him since then. And he said, from that day, I have longed for a father. I was angry with him, I was sad with him. And I've never allowed myself to feel those feelings. But now that I got this hug and permission, all of that just came. So you said the 10 minutes I've cried on your shirt, I was actually reliving those years. It's like those emotions came afresh. So you see, what you should have felt 40 years or 50 years ago, it's now coming out. It's not coming out. So I think there are a lot of us men who carry these unexpressed emotions or unfelt emotions, and definitely we need the permission to be able to bring that up.
Yeah, so actually there are unmet needs, that one had, but they were not met when they should have been met. And so they have been stashed somewhere in a cabinet, expecting someday to get that need met. And so thank you so much. What you did was awesome, because that is exactly what somebody would need, because there is still that space, that somebody needs someone else to come and fill that space. And I think, yes, when those emotions are suppressed, they are waiting for a release. And so if they get an appropriate release, like now what he provided, then it brings healing and allows that person now to live their age. Because it's like they were stuck somewhere. Exactly. But now it's like no one can live their age now, because they're done with that, which they should have done then. So it is actually harmful if it is not met. But then, of course, as we talk, even I guess what we're doing right now, there are people who will realize the need for that, so that they say, oh wow, then I need to get this done, so that they get that need met, then they can progress and move on, and also now be able to be fathers that are productive in their fatherhood. Because you see, again, some of the things that happen is like addiction. You see, when somebody grows up in an abusive family, some make two promises. One is, of course, the big thing is that I'll never want to be in an environment like this. And so because of not wanting to be in an environment like that, you find that some of them now overdo certain things. So maybe this is a father who says, okay, because I didn't get this, now they want to provide it, then they overdo what they are doing, and so they're also now hurting the other generation, because now they're not doing the right thing that should have happened. And so suppressed emotions can actually have bad outcomes if they don't get a proper space in which that can actually be released and be met. Just like you said, they'll be sneaking through some space because it's like something under pressure, and you see if it sneaks off in a bad way, then it actually hurts more people other than helping.